were in a situation that psychologically was difficult and they were angry. The army was not used to dealing with riots, and of course there was exchange of fire. When we have 14 deaths, 84 in Benghazi. So we see the media, mass media, exaggerating, and in fact they speak with exaggeration. People from outside Libya, with coordination with some channels, talked as if they were in Libya. We say also there were mistakes on both sides. The police and especially the unprepared army was mistaken, and of course we have people who were angry and the army defending its position, its barracks, and the people had the right to be angry because they suffered deaths and so on. Every party had its own story and every party was blaming the other. But the sum total of this, Libyan citizens died, and this is the tragedy. Dear brothers, there is a plot against Libya. The security forces will show this on television. We have arrested tens of people, unfortunately, from our Arab brethren. And of course, the African employees in Libya. This was used in order to cause a rift and sedition. Of course, money and millions of pounds were spent on these people from some people with means. And to use this in Libya, the event, the proof is in Benghazi and in Baida. You could see Arabs and Africans that were holding arms. It is not a secret. Everyone could see that. All these have their own plots. Of course, our Arab brothers, through their media and mass media, they hyped up all this. And some media, of course, Arab media did use this. The fault of the Libyan media is that they did not actually cover this, and that was our mistake. But unfortunately, this was exploited by Arab and foreign media. Then the story is very dangerous. It is more, it's bigger than the Libyans and the young people who are in the street trying to imitate what happened in Tunisia and Egypt. Would like to tell you, Libya is not Egypt, and Tunisia, don't be over enthusiastic and don't be affected by this. Libya is not Tunisia and Egypt. Libya has got oil which is united the whole of Libya, and this was one of the main reasons why Libya was united. We only have one source, which is the oil. That all Libyans live on it. It is not in the east, not in the west, it's in the middle. All 5 million live on it. If we have separation, if we separate, who's going to feed us, who's going to give us, who's going to run these oil resources, who have the ability to run this and manage it? In Beida, how are we going to divide this between us?
Saif Gaddafi speaking a few hours ago. There have been 2 focal points for the unrest in Libya. In the northwest, in the capital Tripoli, where up to 3,000 people marched to the city's Green Square on Sunday, and 1,000 kilometers to the east, the country's second largest city of Benghazi, where much of the violence has been centered. Earlier, we asked a doctor who works at Benghazi Central Hospital how staff there are dealing with the mounting number of wounded patients. She asked not to be identified.
Yes, we have a lot of casualties, we have a lot of victims, but we're so proud of them. I'm one of them, I'm so proud of them.
You're one of them as well. What happened to you?
Well, we've been trapped I'm a doctor, and we've been trapped in our home up to now for 3 days with our kids and just supporting our guys and our men just to go and fight. And today, all the people, youth, scouts, doctors, even me, I was in the United States and I just came. I was just trying to begin with the system, and I volunteered, and we've been in the hospitals, and believe me, it was a disaster in the beginning. All the system was his system, and everything was down when he was down. So there's and a lot of brave doctors who get control in the hospitals, taking care of the patients and the victims, and giving support for the whole Libyan families and the whole Libyan people.
As far as you're aware, have the military units in Benghazi now joined the protesters?
Hello?
Hello. Have the military units in Benghazi, we had reports that the military in Benghazi had joined the protesters. Is that something that you are aware of?
Yes, they did, and we received a lot of bodies from them, a lot of victims, a lot of deaths from them. God bless their souls. I mean, they are truly Libyans.
They gave you a number of the victims. Are these military victims, or are they the protesters?
Both. We had both victims from both sides, the ministries and the civilians too.
I'm afraid I wonder if you could bring us up to date, though, then, with the number of casualties, if it's possible to estimate them. And
As I told you before, because we don't have a system right now that's taking care that can give you the exact number, but I can give you like something. It's more than 300. It's more definitely than 300 deaths among our people since the beginning of the revolution over here.
And do you have the ability to cope with these casualties? We also heard that many of the wounds were from very heavy weaponry. Can you confirm that? Has there been any explanation from the military?
We never had experience about that before. So I guess most of the doctors just used their guts and did it. You know what I mean? We had no equipment. We had no planning before. Everybody stepped out and just did what he has to do. That's what's going on around here. Every single doctor, he's in the hospitals. You can see scout leaders, scout girls. You can see what they call it, the Red Crescent over there. You can see even the casualty of the people coming, bringing supplies, bringing medication, whatever the hospital needs, and they will go back and fight and come and send some other people to help us too.
Eyewitness testimony from a hospital in Benghazi. The demonstrations in Libya came on the heels of popular revolutions in Tunisia and Egypt. They're also sparked by specific events in Libya, though. Those include the arrest on February the 15th of Libyan lawyer and human rights activist Fatih Terbil. Terbil represents the families of prisoners, mostly opponents of the regime, killed by Libyan authorities 15 years ago. Terbil has been asking for an investigation into the massacre and the government's subsequent cover-up. He was eventually released, but the protests continued. 2 days later, Libyans staged a day of rage in an effort to oust their ruler, Muammar Gaddafi, who's been in power for 42 years. One of the demands, a constitution for the country. Lawyers demonstrated in the eastern city of Benghazi to call for that change, for example. For some analysis, we're joined by William Zartman. He's a professor of international relations